Hello, and welcome to the BYU Family History Library webinar series. We're glad you could join us today. I'm Megan Smith, and I'll be your host for this webinar. If you have technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box and I can address your concerns. You're welcome to use the chat box during the webinar for comments, insights, and questions. However, all questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Our next webinar is on September 10th with James Tanner. He will be giving a presentation entitled Using Full Text Search to Research Your Enslaved Ancestors. If you would like to access a previous webinar, please visit our webinar index on our website or search on our YouTube channel. All of our webinars are recorded and uploaded by the following Monday for your convenience. We also post links to recordings and other updates on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. For today's webinar, we are pleased to hear from Ada Luque Nelson, who will be talking about FamilySearch for Latinos, reviewing AI indexed records. Before we begin, here's a little bit about our speaker. Ada Luque Nelson is a native of Panama who has over 30 years of experience researching her roots in Latin America. She retired from an engineering career to work full-time in genealogy. Ada has expertise in online information systems, information architecture, and UX, user experience. A few years ago, she founded Latino Roots Search, a subsidiary of the Hispanic Heritage Project. The mission of LRS is to support HHP and other genealogy nonprofits and to develop finding aids and research tools for fellow Latino researchers. As a dedicated volunteer, she has indexed over 5,000 records, arbitrated over 16,000 records, and over the last year has reviewed nearly 1,000 family AI indexed records. She is a frequent presenter at genealogy conferences, including Roots Tech, and also has presented webinars at different venues, including FamilySearch. She lives in Salt Lake City, Utah, with her husband, Brent, who assists her. They have a married daughter and 3 precious grandchildren to whom they dedicate this important work. If Ada is ready, we'll turn the time over to her.
Thank you, Megan, and welcome to this webinar. Today, we're going to talk about AI indexing and how you can participate in indexing review using FamilySearch tools. My main objective today is to help you get better acquainted with the FamilySearch AI indexing tools and to understand how to improve your AI review experience. And lastly, it's also an invitation to join a community of like-minded AI indexing reviewers. The opinions expressed in this webinar are mine alone, but I am thankful for those who contributed time and knowledge to this research. I'm going to be talking about CAI, what it is, how it is being implemented, how you can get involved, and how you can improve your experience with these tools. So what is FamilySearch AI indexing? This blog article is a good introduction to AI initiatives of FamilySearch. It's called AI Developments in Genealogy by Abby Tanner. AI can be used in genealogy in very many different ways. And here I'm only listing 3: transcribing records, analyzing images, matching data. But AI is capable of so many things. If you can imagine, this is super brain that can analyze quickly large volumes of data. It can give us a fresh perspective on our trees. It can identify patterns and connections that are hard for us to grasp. AI is being used in many areas of the world for many reasons. RootsTech 2025 was full of presentations on how AI can be used for genealogy. AI can drastically increase the precision of our results, and it is really a great tool to have for our genealogy purposes. And what is FamilySearch CAI? So CAI is computer-aided indexing. It is artificial intelligence developed by FamilySearch for indexing records. CAI is used to index and publish digitized records. And in the past, we had microfilm, right? And they were designated as GS, Genealogical Society. That was the name of the microfilm number, GS numbers. In today's world of digitization, we use the moniker DGS, Digital Genealogical Society, to designate digital filming number. DGS is not the same as a collection, but it is part of a collection. Natural image groups are scanned, not microfilmed images. So DGS is about scanned images. CAI was not done overnight, all at once. CAI was completed in stages. And because of that, it improved in stages. The stages were a ramp up. The first ones were not so good. And from there, they kept improving. So is there a list of CAI collections? So some countries like Panama only have one collection for all the records, but multiple groups of digitized images. DGS identifies the records from a town or church. It can be a subset of a collection. So there is a list of the collections that are available in FamilySearch in a wiki article. And there are collections from many countries there in that list. Some of these collections were not selected for CIA because there were contractual reasons, and so they could not be indexed. They were already indexed and published, or the criteria for using CAI was not met. Here is a portion of the FamilySearch CAI list. As you can see, it covers many countries: Italy, Mexico, Spain, United States, even states within the United States, Uruguay, Venezuela, and many types of documents too. Here's wills. For Latin America, is primarily church and civil records, but from other parts of the world, it can include a lot more information, like obituaries. CAI projects in Latin America. So CAI covered practically all the world. It's not all the records, all the collections, but for computer-aided indexing review, the tool is has available right now Latin America, Spain, and Portugal. So these are the Ibero-American countries. And these releases were announced through FamilySearch blogs since May of 2023. Primarily, they're church and civil records. There are a few census, government, and military records, as well as notarial records. And this is a table that shows the collections that were indexed, machine indexed, over a period of time since May of 2023 through January of this year. And you can see, as I mentioned before, that this is done in stages. The timeline is different for different countries. So they were not all done at once, but millions of records have been indexed this way. And here's a graph that shows which countries have, at the top of the list is Colombia, but then even some on the left, you can see the actual numbers. So you can see how this project has 61.6 million records that have been indexed with artificial intelligence. And what kind of records were indexed in Latin America? Well, this table breaks it down, and you can see the majority are civil records, civil record collections, church collections, and then just a handful of census, military, police, DAS, notarial records. This came from the FamilySearch wiki, and there's a link for it. Getting involved, reviewing AI indexing. So you probably are familiar with the Get Involved program, and we're going to be spending the rest of the time here. The key, so as I began to work with AI index records, reviewing them, my expectations were kind of high. I was a seasoned indexer, and I was an arbitrator, and I had reviewed names before, but I was not prepared for what I found. And I had a lot of challenges. And what I learned during the past year of working with these records is that it's important to manage the challenges and expectations. And the key to managing challenges and expectations is keeping an open mind, having the right attitude. And that for me was the key. Dictionary defines attitude as a settled way of thinking about something that is reflected in your behavior. And this activity has many challenges. And I have been frustrated many times, and I have seen other people also post comments in the community forum, and I know they're sharing this experience. So initially, I started and stopped. I waited, came back. I was not committed to this. There were so many errors to fix. There were problems with the tool. The help was not adequate. It was taking too long. These were the challenges that I faced. But as I began to keep at it, I learned to manage my expectations, meant lowering them. This is a learning curve. It takes patience. It's going to get better. I'm going to get faster. And then finally, also the idea that, I'm getting so good at this that I'm going to be able to help other people who are struggling. That kept me going to the next stage, which is the commitment that I made to sticking with it. Pioneers used handcarts to save time and money and to lower the loss of life when they were crossing the plains instead of using wagons. But there were some difficulties they had not foreseen. Two of the handcart companies almost didn't make it to the valley. They were so close, but they would have perished if people hadn't dropped what they were doing to come and rescue them. I see a lot of similarities here. They almost made it, but not quite, and they needed people to rescue them. Our records are also stuck in no man's land, and we need to commit to rescue them. And I think often of this English proverb, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But tough times never last. Tough people do. And I know that we can make the commitment that will lead to success. So I'm inviting you to manage your expectations, commit to getting involved, and participate in AI indexing review. More importantly, I'm asking you to collaborate with the rest of us. Collaboration, expectations, commitment, and participation, I think, is the key to success in this work. We can't do this alone, but we can link arms and work together. We can share our skills, our knowledge, and support each other. AI indexing review needs to be verified and corrected by humans. We need to get you, We need you to get involved in rescuing our records. Indexing review opportunities. These are the ones that exist today: quick name review, full name review, indexing, or family review. So each of these opportunities uses different tools. The quick name review can even be done in an app on your phone. The others two can only be done in the web. We are not going to spend much time talking about these two because they are much simpler and there is a lot more information about them and more support. The bulk of the time will be spent on family or indexing review on the web. So something that people may not understand is that there are actually two AI indexing review tools, and one of them has been around for much longer time than the new family review tool. And they both do pretty much similar things. You can edit names, relationships, and events with both of them. And when you're in the family review tool, you can actually click and go to the main tool as well. And you can use both of them together. The main tool has been used for editing records in other languages, other places in the world, not just Latin America. This is the most complete tool for reviewing CAI records. You can access them directly from a record page. So let me show you what that looks like. If you have opened the family review tool, you will see a little button up here at the top that says record details. When you click on that button, you will open the main review tool. And this, I'm sure, looks very familiar to you because it is something we've been seeing for a long time. And I remember when they first put the edit button here and they put this information, this record was indexed by a computer and you can make corrections. And I remember when this first became available, but I was stuck in a different mentality when this happened. And I thought this tool was just too complicated. And truly, I wasn't even going to mention in this presentation until I had a conversation with a friend just last week. And she told me I really should try it because she thought it was simpler in some ways. So I did. I decided to keep an open mind and I tried it. And I have to say, I agree with my friend and I have changed my attitude. So now I am looking at this. But that means that I am not going to be able to share with you much about this main tool. And I think both of them need to be used together. It is more powerful. It also has a learning curve, but the two complement each other. So I'm committed to learning this. And that's the reason that I feel we all need to collaborate because I don't know everything and you don't know everything, but the two minds put together, we can figure it out. So one thing bonus that we get with the family review is that we can personalize our indexing review. We can do in family review and full name review, you can select a country, select the city in that country, and even select the surname in that location. What's even better is that you can actually find relatives. And it didn't occur to me, I was doing some name reviews and I decided to look for a surname in my country. And lo and behold, I found a record that I had never seen that was not in my tree. And I was able to attach that record later. I was able to find these people that I didn't know existed and add them. And that was such a wonderful experience. And you can use it this way as well. You don't have to, and because you have a CAI list, you can know exactly which collections from your country were actually have been digitized and indexed. And that will give you a starting point to see if maybe some of these people have been indexed through AI, and you can find them this way. I came across a comment that somebody left on the forum. This man said that he had been doing reviews, and he came across 2 birth certificates of the siblings of his great grandfather, and he was able to find all 8 of his third great grandparents. And then he was able to locate the hint for the historical record. He was able to attach it, and his wife as well found her 4 of her third great grandparents, and they have been able to add so much more to their tree because of doing the work. So this is a great bonus if you're participating. So what are the best practices for AI indexing review? We've spoken about difficulties. So what can we say? What recommendations can I make to you? I have learned a lot of these through the School of Hard Knocks. I am not that smart. I just am persistent. And so it took me a while to figure out the first one, that if you are reviewing in a language different than Spanish or Portuguese, there is a problem when you select the gender, because the system kind of forces you into the language that you're reviewing in. And so if you're reviewing in Spanish and the gender has been set in English, you have to change all of those designators before you can proceed. And that takes a lot of time. But what we really want is the gender to be in Spanish, because it's also been a problem that the gender designator for male starts with an M, and the designator for female in Spanish is mujer, which are the opposite gender, is the same M designator. And some of the records have been marked, or some of the people in the records have been marked as being M, male, instead of female for that reason. And so to avoid this problem for yourselves and other people following best practice is do it in Spanish or Portuguese. Review every name and event. Even though it says click here to verify, and you think, oh, it looks good, I'm just going to click there. But that's not enough, because the parts of, well, I'll show you this later. So let's go ahead to the next step. Well, this kept me away for a while, and I used to abandon a lot of records, and I stop and I think, no, this is, so there were sometimes when I was fixing a highlight, I would get errors, and you could not get away from the error, and I would just abandon the record, and I would send a message, open a ticket, do whatever, try to figure out why is this happening, until I got a tip from someone saying, you know what, you don't need to worry about this, because the highlights are only for the users. They are not being used by the computer to learn how to do this better. Oh, so they are not as important. And especially if they cause errors, sometimes you would do an fix a highlight and it wouldn't save the change. Well, you don't need to worry about that. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can leave it alone. You can submit the whole thing and just walk away knowing that you haven't affected anything. So this is a very good best practice. And the names of the priests are not essential. So maybe it could have been one or more priests mentioned. Again, they're mentioned in every single record, almost always twice. Sometimes there are 3 mentions to the name, you do not need to worry about it. If one is missing, you can move ahead. If both are missing, just ignore it. And that would go too for if you were doing civil records and it was the judge or the notary or the administrator that was handling the records. The computer doesn't know the difference. It's just looking for names. But if those names are giving you problems, if you can't figure out, what the spelling is or whatever, it's not important. They're not essential because they were not related to these people. However, godparents, witnesses, they may be relatives, so they should be indexed or the indexing should be corrected. Include marginal notes. So that has been a question that I have had for many, many years since traditional indexing. What do I do with the marginal notes? And the old advice was, if there is a marriage mentioned in the margin, leave it alone. But we have a new recommendation that we should include what's in the margin. So if there's other events like a marriage, or sometimes maybe the child was illegitimate, and so the father wasn't mentioned in the body of the document, but the priest wrote it in the margin that he had been acknowledged by his father or that his father had married the mother, that name needs to be included. So the marginal notes are important. Even if the child doesn't appear with a surname, the surname should be included as the name of the child. And again, don't worry about the highlighting. This could cause some highlighting problems. I would just ignore the highlights and add the information. Okay, so we're going here now to the reviewing the names. Always open every entry to inspect it. And the reason is that sometimes, the computer could have put the surname with the given name together in the same line and said there was no surname or no given name, and that would be incorrect. So you really need to fix this. The gender, like I said before, needs to be, and until this gender is fixed in Spanish, the system won't know if it's a male or female relative. So once you fix this, that will fix this. You can ignore the highlighting, as we said before. Always open every entry to inspect every event. So here is somebody, says christening, the place, the time. Now, sometimes this christening will say Anglican baptism in Spanish. And when I first saw that, I thought, oh, no, that's incorrect. I have to change that. And I've heard of other people tell me the same thing. I had to change it. But then it's really hard to change. And at the end, I don't know that I did any better. And I wasted like 10 or 15 minutes extra trying to change it. But the truth is, you don't need to change it. For some reason, the system doesn't identify with Catholic baptisms or christenings, so they call them Anglican christenings. But that's okay, because that is what is needed here. And until they fix that, is fine. We should just do that. So location should be standardized. If possible, enter the name of the church if it's not there. And sometimes the system will put the name of the church as the birthplace. So then you should edit that too. And then, of course, you need to be reading the original to see where what date is accurate, and change it here. And do not correct highlighting. It could trigger an error. So sometimes you really should abandon a record. So when is that something that you should do? You should abandon records that are too hard, too difficult for you to review. And so that level of difficulty is different for everybody. So you're the best judge of when you feel like that's not for me. So how do you abandon a record? You basically just click back on this arrow. So this arrow is in that top on the left upper corner of the page, right next to Family Review. Now, one thing to let you know, when you save a change in this tool, it automatically makes the change for everyone in the system. So if you abandon a record, it just means that you're not going to go take it all the way through to the end. But it doesn't mean that other changes that you have made have not persisted. I think I'm right. I haven't really checked this out. So you might want to give it a little try by using both review tools and seeing if a change in one tool affects the actual record. Abandoned records that contain link names. So these are names where, say, they would say Mr., Jose and Maria Lopez. So they did not say Jose Lopez and Maria Lopez. So in the linking, in the highlighting, they could only highlight one surname for both people. So then they link the names, the computer linked the names. Well, that causes all kinds of problems. And it's something that you can create yourself if you're trying to highlight the same surname for two people. So I just caution you, you don't want to go there because it is a little difficult to get rid of. I found out very recently that there is a way to fix this with the main tool, but I don't know yet how to do it. So at this point, I'm just counseling people to just abandon the record, just leave it for later for someone else. Records that span 2 pages. When they span 2 pages, the system creates a record for the beginning of the record and a record for the tail end of the record. So it's duplicating the record. So if you end up with the tail end of it, in which case you wouldn't know the name of the child, then it will say the primary person is unknown. And at that point, what you want to do is, the recommendation is to abandon it, because you will spend a lot of time recreating a record that somebody else is going to recreate from the other page. So it will be duplicate work and it will not be useful to anyone. So don't waste your time. Just abandon that, because it will be taken care of by the other, whoever does the first part. And I think this is consistent with traditional indexing, that you only index the records that start on that page, not the ones that end on that page. If the priest is the primary person, it's very difficult to fix. And really, this is very time consuming. So I would advise you at this point to abandon those records. Again, these are my opinions. So this is the reason we're trying to see if we can collaborate, because as we discover new things, it's good to share and know where we're going together. Records that have only data from a marginal node. So I mentioned before, sometimes node is in a margin. Well, sometimes the system thinks the margin is a separate record. And that also creates a lot of problems, because it's not really, and it's a duplicate. And we're trying to figure out which way is the best way to handle this. So at this point, I think it's going to take some discussion to figure out the best practice for this. If the primary person is wrong and you try your best, you can change it, but sometimes you can't. And if you're stuck in that situation where the primary person is wrong and you can't change the name, then this is a good time to abandon the record. So how do you report problems? Well, the best way is to click this little button that's on the left side of your screen. is the feedback button, comentario in Spanish, and you sort of submit a ticket. So when you click on this, the first thing you will see is they ask you, do you want to give specific or generic feedback? For our purpose, we recommend you give specific feedback because then it will include the DGS and the image. And so that's what you want. You want to send that information through your feedback so that the person on the other end, which is monitored by engineers, will be able to figure out exactly what the problem is. And then you explain the problem here and you submit. So we talked about communities and joining them. So what does that mean? How do I access community forums? Okay, so FamilySearch has communities where you can ask questions. It also has groups, although primarily today what we have is the questions, a topic, a question that is on a particular topic. So when you are in the community main page, you want to click on this, ask a question. That will take you to a page, ask a question. And these are the topics. So there are a limited number, and the one you want is get involved indexing. When you click on this, you will open the topic for get involved indexing, but that's a wide topic. So you definitely want to do a search to limit what you're looking for, and what you have is family review. And so these are comments that have been posted on Family Review recently. And this is the way that we're hoping that you can contact us first. However, there is another way, and that is you can become a FamilySearch ambassador. So a FamilySearch ambassador group has been set up for the Latino community. And I joined, and so have some of my friends. And what we are is we are people who are more, we're volunteers that are closer to the inside circle, is a better way to put it. So we have volunteered to do things that are more, above the average for volunteers. So we are going to be creating this Get Involved indexing group so that we can communicate and collaborate with each other. This forum right now exists on WhatsApp. And when you click on this link, it will take you to a form that you fill out. Then you get invited to join the group and you get introduced. And this is where we can connect with each other. I can connect with you. You can connect with me. So this group is going to have some special projects involving the indexing review. You can also work on archives, historical records, do research, help with local events, make present, etc. So there's other things that you can get involved with. But at this point, I'm bringing this up because of indexing and get involved. So we've reached the end of the presentation, and I just wanted to go over our objectives. I believe I have been able to familiarize you with the CAI process, the computer aided indexing process, that you can understand the challenges and opportunities of AI indexing, that you are now more familiar with the review tools, the best practices, or some of the event is a summary, and that you know how to join a community of AI indexing reviewers. Here is my contact information. Thank you for participating. Hope that to meet you in the community forum or in the ambassadors group. Look for my post in the community forum. There is going to be a follow-up webinar. There is going to be a workshop where I'm going to have actual demos of the things we have been discussing here. And it will be more open for questions. Thank you for participating. And now I'll turn the time over for questions.
All right. It looks like we don't have any questions for you today, but thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you will join us for our next webinar on September 10th with James Tanner about using full text search to research your enslaved ancestors. A recording of this webinar will be made available by next week. You can view that on our YouTube channel or our website. If you have any comments or questions, you can always email us at fh_webinars@byu.edu or follow our Facebook and Twitter. Thank you and have a wonderful week.